Good evening, and welcome to the Anne Arundel Bird Club's community lecture series. Um, as we're doing our virtual meetings this year, like every other bird club, I think they provide us a great opportunity to have speakers and invite other people from other bird clubs and elsewhere that might not normally be able to get to these meetings. So that's one of the benefits of that. And we will be doing these virtually through May, and hopefully in the fall, everybody will have had their 2 vaccine shots, and we'll be able to do things in person again, like field trips and meetings. I know we're all looking forward to that. Tonight, um, I am really happy to introduce Kojo Baidoo. Um, YMOS, I guess are you an alumni now? Is that what you call it, a YMOS alumni? George, do these people graduate, or are they always YMOS?
No, they never graduate.
Okay.
They're stuck with us forever.
Okay. So a YMOS person, and I think a fantastic photographer. I've been using some of his photos on the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership website and a Facebook page. Kojo is currently a freshman at Princeton University, planning to concentrate in the Ecology and Evolutionary Biology department. He has been interested in birds and nature for as long as he can remember and began seriously birding around 6 years old. That is awesome. And he added photography to the mix in middle school. So with that, Kojo, we are looking forward to your presentation, and we'll turn it over to you.
All right, so let me screen share here. Okay, can everybody see that? Does that work?
Yep, that's good.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so here, I'll do this. Yeah, all right. So hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Kojo Baidoo. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and so I just thought I'd do a presentation on pretty much what I've been doing this year. I've had a lot more time to bird than usual, of course. Everyone knows why. I'm sure everyone has to. I noticed that with having more time to bird, I just saw a lot more birds in general, be they rare birds or just more migratory birds or birds in my own yard or whatever. So I thought I'd compile some photos from I think months starting from March through now, pretty much. Basically when we started to quarantine and everything, and just see how it turns out. So I am limited on time and I tend to ramble. So if I talk a little fast, I'm really sorry. Hopefully you can understand me. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So, oh, what's happening? Yeah, this is just an introductory slide. I think Chris already said everything. I just like to, put this. But I find that the question a lot of people ask is, do I have a favorite bird, whether they be birders and unbirders? And I always say the next one I see just to be all quirky, but the real answer is no. I just, although it is funny that we were talking about green-tailed towhees. That's a juvenile green-tailed towhee in my hands there from Colorado. So that's just kind of cool. So yeah, let's just get started. So first is March. So since we were in quarantine, I did not stray very far from home at all, really, which is of course good. But thankfully I have a lot of locations close by that are really special. And this presentation will mostly focus on those areas because I think seeing the value in places that are local is really, really important for birding. So this is Soldier's Delight National Environment Area. It's in Owings Mills, Maryland, and it's special because it has this serpentine barren habitat. So it's hard to see, and I'll have more pictures later on. I think, I'm not really sure what constitutes serpentine barrens, but I know the soil's very special. Not a lot of things can grow, and the environment's super harsh. So you don't get a whole lot of special birds, but the ones that do breed there are special. So for example, this pine warbler, of course, a lot of pine trees, they return in March, first the males and females, and they are aggressive and ready to breed and ready to nest. And so they're singing like crazy. And so, here were some males that were nice enough to let me take their picture. And you also have a couple of early migrants. So this golden crowned kinglet here is, of course, a visiting bird, and that was really nice to see. Moving on to April, I kind of condensed a couple things down, but these were all taken at home. I enjoy the genus Spizella a lot. I don't know why, I think they're very pretty. And luckily, both chipping and field sparrows tend to arrive, or in some cases, I think they're technically year round, but it seems like we don't really see them much in the winter. So I say arrive, or just become very conspicuous at the same time in April. So this is a male chipping sparrow on the right. This is a male field sparrow on the left. Oh, I just mixed that up. I'm sorry, but yeah, this chipping sparrow was kind of special because I have a little bit of a love for common birds. From a photography standpoint, they're kind of overlooked because everyone wants to get the special, cool, bright, you know what I mean, bright birds. But I think that there is a lot of subtle beauty in the common birds too. And I realized that I had pretty much no photos of chipping sparrows. So I kind of wandered around my neighborhood and I found this place where my neighbor was putting down grass seeds, and this guy would actually come down and eat. And so I laid in the grass, the wet April storm's grass, and kind of just waited for him to come down. Eventually he did. I think he's stuffing his face in that photo down here. And then on the right here, I have this field sparrow, which was right beside my neighborhood. And that took a lot of time, but eventually I did get a nice photo of him as well, which was nice. So now I go to Susquehanna State Park a lot in the spring for migrants, and I want to do like a little interactive thing. So I'm going to play this video, and there's going to be a very loud bird song, and I'd like to see if anyone can tell me what it is. So you can just put it in the chat. All right. Does anybody know what that is? Here, can I see the chat? Any ideas? All right, let's hear it. I'll play it one more time. Oops. Yep, Prairie Warbler. So, oh, okay, there we go. So this was a highlight of the year for me. I know that Prairie Warblers are rather tame, and they do tend to spend their time down low, which is good for warblers and very atypical for most warblers. But this bird was like on another level. There were fishermen on the bridge that you just saw, and it had no fear at all. He just come back from very long migration, I'm sure, and kind of even perched it on the bridge for me a little bit, and it was fantastic. And so, I don't know, it was a highlight. And then there were a couple of other birds that had just arrived. This is a northern parula, and this bird was special to me because it has a bit of an interesting song. Anyone who knows parulas know they can really do some weird things, but this is what it sounded like. I'll play it one more time because, let's see. Yeah, so the beginning is interesting because it actually sounds a bit like a Cerulean Warbler, and Cerulean Warblers are quite common for ceruleans at Susquehanna. They don't arrive until a bit later, but they're also closely related to parulas. And this video was actually taken last year. This photo was taken this year, and it was in the same general area, and I'm pretty sure it was the same bird who came back and was singing that same song. And it makes me wonder if he has a little bit of cerulean mixed in him. I don't know if they can imitate it or it's just something that they do. I think I looked up what a hybrid sounded like, and it was somewhat similar, but I thought it was very interesting that he came back. I'm merely speculating. I like to speculate on individual birds. My mom always asked me, why, if you're seeing the same birds every year, why are they so interesting to you? And it's like, on one hand, it's so cool when I can identify individual birds based on behavior, based on photography. That's one cool thing I love about photography, when I can pick out something individual about a bird. But on the other hand, it's so cool when it's not the same bird and when there are different birds passing through the same area every year. So it's it's interesting. Both their consistency and their inconsistency are special to me and for different reasons. But yeah, oh, stop playing. All right. All right. So yeah. So now back to home. I like to think I have a nice yard. I don't know. I've had some pretty interesting birds show up, and I've always wondered why. I think I have a valley close by, and so that creates a ridge that they like to migrate by. And so migration tends to be a little better than most suburban backyards. And I also add my neighborhood to my yard. But yeah, one thing that I have not had success in is attracting Orioles. And I've always wanted to because my dad, like a lot of people used to think that Orioles were robins. And ever since I corrected him, I wanted to attract an actual Oriole for him to see. And so I put out the grape jelly and I put out the oranges every May, and every May they did not come until now. So I woke up one morning, I think it was May 2nd or 3rd, and it just seemed like a very special morning. I don't know. It seemed very special to me. I don't know. It was weird, but I woke up and all the birds were singing, and I heard this chattering outside my window, and I got up immediately, and turns out that's a Snapchat caption. Sorry, but I like to send some of these to my friends. I don't know if they enjoy them. Yeah, you can hear us chattering a little bit in the back. And I think there were 4 or 5 Orioles. Only one here. I think there were 2 in that second photo. I can't really see. If I can move this somewhere else. Yeah. But yeah, it was really cool. And then I think one bird kept returning throughout the day, and I was able to show it to my dad. So that was really exciting. I think he enjoyed it a lot. He's not a birder, but he knows more than the average person just from driving me around. So, okay. And then along with the migrants are some local birds returning. This common yellowthroat, I don't know if it's the same bird. Again, like I like to think it is, but I have no way of knowing if it is. But it's been returning to the same area right behind my house for years. And this year he kind of got tested a little bit. There was a young male who I think probably passing through, but also probably looking for a territory of his own to settle in. And this adult was not having it at all and would just chase him around constantly and would sing and pay me no mind. So I kind of sat on the hill so I'd be eye level with him as he chased him around. Sometimes he'd land nearby, sometimes he wouldn't. See, you can tell by the lighting that I came back on separate days. But eventually this was the result. So I'm glad I kind of got to get close to him as he did what is probably a usual day for him, but it was very entertaining for me to watch. And here are some other migrants that passed through at home. So you have your American Red Star. This was also really, I think, Chris, I think I may have sent you that photo. I'm not sure. But
it looks familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really proud of it. I'm sorry if I posted it everywhere. But yeah, I also had a Louisiana water thrush come by and actually engage in a little bit of a spat with a northern water thrush. It was very interesting to see. The northern won out, which I'm not surprised by. I always call northern water thrushes merlins in warbler form because they tend to consider wherever they are their territory and pretty much attack everything else that moves. Also had some solitary sandpiper stop by and a Cape May warbler. This one was actually right in the spruces in my yard, so that was very exciting. I don't often see Cape Mays in the spring. I feel like they take a more westerly route, like through Ohio and such, and then they're a bit more common in the fall. But I do like to see them in the spring because the male sports such wonderful plumage, so that was great. And then I had this surprise visitor. This is a Brewster's warbler, the blue-winged and golden-winged hybrid. I think the first generation. And I think it was not the first time I'd seen one, but definitely the first time I've gotten a good look at one. And I thought it was a blue-winged for a while. I'd hear the blue-winged song. And blue-winged is not necessarily a common migrant in my neighborhood. So when I heard it on more than one day, I was like, that's a little weird. And so I decided to seek it out and found this. And this bird actually stuck around for about a week. Every time I'd hear the blue-winged song, I'd go to confirm. And eventually came down a little bit. Luckily, they don't really go too high. Some birds are canopy dwellers like the parrots, even though they can be nice sometimes. But yeah, so yeah, stuck around for about a week. I was very sad when he moved on, even though, of course, there's no real supporting habitat, so it would have happened eventually. But every single time a migrant will stay for more than like 3 days, I start getting a little bit hopeful, and then I get sad when they move on, but it was nice. Hopefully it comes back next year. I don't know. You never know. But yeah. Oh, I guess this year. And then this other really special thing happened in May. I have a red-shouldered hawk pair. I don't know if any of you are on the email listserv for MD birding. I used to post about them a lot when I was younger. So if you ever saw a red-shouldered hawk post with a bunch of photos, it was probably me. I've been watching these birds. I think they were, one of them at least was my original lifer, red-shouldered hawk, assuming they're the same bird, when I was like 7 or 8. And I've been seeing them around since then. Of course, I have no way of knowing if they're the same birds, or at least I had no way of knowing until 2016, I believe, when I first started taking photos of them. And since then, I've found their nest, and then their nest fell, and then I refound the new one, which they were building right under my nose, and been dive bombed. And so now we have this whole routine where I usually find them in November or December when all the leaves have fallen off the trees and they're a lot easier to find, and I follow them around for the winter. This is the female Hera. She is a lot more tame. The male, who is Zeus, typically does not let me get close to him at all. But through photography and studying their individual plumage markings, and I've been able to, I can now ID them by sight and also by ear, because they just sound like a little bit different. She has kind of a more sing-songy, it's the same call, of course, but she tends to do it kind of like a more melodious way, and he is all business and all aggression and everything. So yeah, funny story, I actually got them mixed up for a long time. I thought that she was the male and he was the female, and I'd always wonder why I never see the female adding sticks to the nest, or why the female was always the one doing nest defense when a red-tailed passes over everything. And one day I was just like, wait, I'm literally being stupid. And yeah, it was for like a solid year and a half. It was kind of embarrassing, but have it all figured out now. And what I do is when the eggs hatch in May, I leave them alone until maybe August, usually, when the juveniles have been out of the nest for a couple months, both for their protection, for their comfort, and also mine, because if I even go, like, one time I got dive bombed across the forest, like when I'm not even trying, because I think they know my face, or at least Zeus knows my face. And the dive bombs never come actually close to my face. It's mostly, at least I'd like to think, it's mostly bluff, but just both because I don't want to stick around to find out, and for their own protection, I stay away as much as I can. But yeah, I actually figured out I could watch from my car, and of course they wouldn't see me. So this is through the car window and through the trees. I think they had 2 birds, but more about that later. And yeah, back to Soldier's Delight. Prairie Warblers are also one of the specialty species there. So I absolutely adore Prairie Warblers. I think sometimes when I'm tired of saying the next one I see or whatever it is, I will say that my favorite species of bird is the Prairie Warbler. I love their song, I love how they look, I love everything about them. They're just incredible. And I think Soldier's Delight probably has the highest breeding density of Prairie Warblers in the state. I'd be surprised if it didn't. I've had up to 20 in a single walk there in the morning, both females and singing males and the like. So it's an incredible spot for them. It's pretty hard to walk through without seeing one. But yeah, they return end of April to early May, and then they just sing their butts off until July or August, I think. So yeah. And then I also started exploring some new spots, and Lake Roland is a very popular birding destination, especially in Baltimore for migrants. But I had not been until I started driving myself for some reason. I don't know why. I do know why. I did not like to bother my dad, to take me places when I couldn't drive, just mostly because my mom would kind of guilt trip me about it, because we'd usually be gone the whole day and stuff. But since I started driving myself, I've been going to a lot more places. And when school went online, I figured out I could, of course, bird every morning and have a ball. So yeah, this was the result. Lake Roland was great. And then in the summer, you'll see I went to some other cool destinations. And I went back to Susquehanna, saw some other returners. Of course, you have your Untitled Warbler and your Perla. And then I also had some red starts. Red starts are also there in really high density. And then I had some Cerulean Warblers. So this was probably one of the highlights of the year for me. I've been going to Susquehanna for maybe this will be my 6th year going, assuming I go this year. And Cerulean Warblers are the canopy dwelling kings. They never come down ever, unless they're doing 2 things: chasing rival males or rival warblers, because they are super aggressive, will chase red starts, yellow warblers, whatever, or when they're chasing prey. So what happened here is, I think this caterpillar was falling, they fall from silk, and Cerulean dove after it, and I just happened to, I not just happened to be there, I was following him hoping he'd do this, and came down just for a little bit, kind of hacked the butterfly, not the butterfly, the caterpillar on the twig there, and ate it, and it was really cool. And I also got a video / recording of 2 males counter singing. It's hard to hear the second one, but this was kind of on their boundary. If you just walk this road, if you go far enough, you'll hear them. But let me see if I can play that. So that's the first one. And there's the second one. So they're doing slightly different songs there, but yeah, I guess that was right on the territory boundary. They did fight a couple times while I was there. Hopefully they got it all sorted out. But yeah, unfortunately, Susquehanna has been having more and more cowbirds, and I'm very much hoping that they mostly escaped cowbird parasitism this season. But yeah, I guess we'll see in coming years how their abundance is affected as the cowbirds move in more and more. But Susquehanna remains to be one of the best places in the state to get good looks at ceruleans. All right, and now June, finding breeding birds. I kind of made it a mission of mine as the Atlas started this year to get out to more spots I hadn't been to, because I'd been a bit energized by the spring. And so one of those stops was spot in Cockeysville, Shawan Downs, which is actually a horse racing, I don't know what they call it, but you can walk there, and it was really weird because they were mowing the tall grass, unfortunately, but even when it was all mowed, there were still several grasshopper sparrows in the area. So I'm hoping they were successful. And if they weren't, there's also a center for agriculture down the road, and hopefully they made their way there. But I had no idea grasshopper sparrows were as common as they were in my county. They're not necessarily common, but I just assumed they were not really easy to find. But I was proven wrong, as you'll see a little bit later on again. So here's a short video of one doing that really cool song. I'll stop it here because I still have a lot to get through. But yeah, so now finding a familiar face. This is one of Zeus and Hera's offspring. One day I was coming back from somewhere, I'm not sure, but I realized that it was the first week of June, which is typically when they fledge, and kind of visited the old nest area. And this guy soon made his presence very known. As you can see, he's screaming down below. And his parents had gifted him what I determined to be guess not fledgling yet, a nestling blue jay, which is kind of interesting because usually blue jays are the ones giving these guys a bit of grief. So maybe this was their way of getting payback. I don't know, a bit twisted, but I saw him a couple more times throughout the season. I keep saying him, I'm not sure what gender it was. And I never saw the second nestling. So I do hope nothing bad happened, and maybe I was just, I just never ran into it. But I believe they fledged at least one bird this year. And so now exploring new areas. So the first area I explored was Pretty Boy Reservoir, and it's really a fantastic spot. It's up in northwest Baltimore County, pretty close to the Pennsylvania state line. And there are quite a few breeding species that you get here that are pretty hard in other spots of the county. So first you had your Prairie Warblers, which aren't hard in other spots of the county, but black and white warblers, which I don't think nest anywhere. Actually, that's not true. I can't believe I'm saying that. Other than, don't nest anywhere other than Pretty Boy and Liberty Reservoirs, and they're actually getting a bit less common, unfortunately, I think, as cowbirds become more abundant and I think other habitat issues. But Pretty Boy is one of the places to see them. And so I had no idea black and white warblers nested anywhere other than Garrett County until this year. Part of that is because I did not check eBird nearly as much as I should have. And I really changed that this year, but I was super excited to find this male. Then I went to the dam, which is, I won't play this video, but yeah, it's a dam. And I found cliff swallows and rough-winged swallows nesting under there right in here. I don't know if you can, I can't zoom in, but there is a swallow flying up right there, I think. Oh, it's trying to play the video. Well, I'll do it a little bit. Yeah, so it's a really, Pretty Boy is just incredible. It's like, I remember taking a picture and my YMOS friend Daniel asked me if I was in Garrett, and I was like, no, I'm not. This is Baltimore. And I couldn't believe it myself. The picture I took is actually right here. It's Hemlock Gorge, which if you know anything about Garrett County, hemlocks are everywhere in the Appalachians, of course. But this is one of the places where they are also pretty abundant. And it was just very weird to me because if I feel like the issue was altitude, if we were as high as Garrett and we had this exact habitat, there'd be Blackburnian warblers, there'd be black-throated green warblers, there'd be all this stuff. And I was really frustrated because there wasn't much at Hemlock Gorge. There was a cerulean the year prior, but he did not return this year. And it's just a breathtaking spot. The birds themselves did not quite match my expectations here. But I did have a really cool encounter with a worm-eating warbler, which are rival water thrushes for the most aggressive birds. So I pitched, and this guy flew in very, very close, and did some singing and was all around amazing. And I know a lot of people aren't huge fans of worm eatings because they aren't quite as pretty as other warblers, but I do think that they do show some unique colors, and I tried to capture that here. Yeah, this photo actually made the eBird front page, which I was really excited about. That was great. Yeah, and here's a really chance encounter. I was trying to find another spot at Pretty Boy. This was the same day as Hemlock Gorge, and I just pulled over someplace, even though I was following the eBird, what do you call it, the pin, and I parked my car, and almost immediately I hear this song. Yeah, so it's a scarlet tanager, and you know, he's not gonna let me finish. You know, I talk about these canopy dwellers. This is one of them, but you know, like I say, birds are unpredictable, and you never know what's gonna happen. But this happened. It was hands down the coolest experience I had. Actually, I won't say that. One of the coolest experiences I had this year. It was a scarlet tanager that you could actually see, that wasn't completely covered by trees, by leaves. And he stayed down in the, not the understory necessarily, but down in the lower levels of the tree for 20, 30 minutes as people walked right under him, just singing his heart out, doing a little bit of foraging. It was incredible. And when things like this happen, I'm just haunted by the fact that if I hadn't chosen to stop there, because this wasn't where I was planning to go, I would have missed it completely. It kind of blows my mind thinking about just how by chance some bird encounters are. If you're there even a minute earlier, you could miss, say, a super rare like first state record. I know we just had a red-billed tropic bird fly by in Ocean City, and if no one was at the inlet that day, no one would have seen it. And it's just like, makes me wonder what we miss when we're not out birding. And it makes me want to go out every single day that I can. But yeah, so now I'm exploring a Liberty Reservoir, which is a bit closer to home. I'm kind of on the Carroll County border, and Liberty is mostly in Carroll County, I think, but there is still a little bit in Baltimore. So this was a cool encounter. Willow flycatchers aren't necessarily uncommon, kind of like grasshopper sparrows, where I just didn't really realize they were around as much as they were. But I saw these willows, and I was like, "What if there's a willow flycatcher?" And soon enough, a song of the bird rang out, and then kind of watched two rival males have a spat for a little bit. It's just a little bit cropped because they were pretty far in, but they did come out a little bit. And in the same spot, I had what I call an unlikely father, a young male American redstart. Usually they are not chosen to be mates by females when they're in their first year still. You can see he's getting a little bit of his black here and here. But I guess, I don't know if this female was strapped for, she didn't have many options, but either way, he did a great job because if you can see here, that's a young red start. I looked very hard to make sure it wasn't a cowbird. I'm pretty sure it's not, although warbler fledglings are notoriously hard to ID. But yeah, he's got a little spider in his bill there, and he did a great job. So I'm very proud of him. Yeah. So another spot at Liberty Reservoir is Norris Run Trail, where I found hooded warblers. This is about 10 minutes from my house, and this was when I realized just how much stuff you can find, like so close to your wherever you live. Or maybe my parents just chose a great place to buy their house. I don't know. But yeah, Veery also bred here, and that was really cool. It's quite overgrown, but otherwise there wouldn't be hooded warblers here. I even found a Kentucky warbler one day, although I think it was just a female looking for a place to nest. I don't think she was mated. And then more breeding warblers. So I had these really cool Parula and black and white warbler encounters. The Parula was a bit similar to the tanager, in which they're usually canopy dwellers, but they will come down. I think they come down more than more people realize. But just absolutely unafraid male. I had to come a second day. Sometimes you kind of have to stalk them a little bit because they're not going to do what you want all the time. But the black and white warbler was a different story. Unfortunately, he was feeding a cowbird fledgling. But because of that, the cowbird was down in the brush. Sorry, excuse me. But he would come down low as well. And then a less exciting chance encounter, I pulled over at a random spot around the reservoir again, and I did find a scarlet tanager again, but this time he was feeding a cowbird, and very unfortunate. And I've read that cowbird mothers will kind of stalk the pair that they built, that they were originally stalking before, to see how the bird's growing up. And there were two young cowbirds. I think one was being fed by a red-eyed vireo, and I also saw two female cowbirds in the area too. And it was so eerie. But although it makes me sad, I also have a bit of respect for just how they conduct their breeding activities. It's such a cool adaptation, and unfortunately, the balance has been set off a little bit by forest fragmentation because they're entering areas that they should not be able to enter, and that's why we're seeing a lot more songbirds declining because of cowbirds. But they are being controlled, like in cases of the Kirtland's warbler. So yeah, but I kind of wish you got a bit more common of a bird than the scarlet tanager, but it is what it is. So now still in June, I'm doing some atlasing. And I think I'll have to pick up the pace here, but this was also in Carroll County, where I was able to confirm a Kentucky warbler. Like I said, warbler fledglings, so hard to ID. Like, who would have thought that was a Kentucky warbler? But when I saw the bird, this guy flew in very angrily, and that's when I knew what I was looking at. And I also was able to confirm worm-eating warbler on the same day, so that was exciting. And a secretive breeder. So this is a pretty uncommon breeding species in Baltimore County. I was going to do like an interactive thing, but I don't think we have much time for that. So I'll just say it's a broad-winged hawk. And I'm sure some of you know Keith Eric Costley. He is an incredible nest finder. It's insane. But he found this broad-winged hawk nest right above a very, very popular trail on the Tapsco River. And they were able to fledge young successfully. I returned to the nest a couple weeks later, and a young bird was a young bird that could fly was like right above the nest and kind of watched me for a little bit and then took off. But really exciting to see. And then back to Soldiers of Light. So I was talking about specialty birds. Here are two of them. Summer tanager, which is I think the only place in Baltimore where you can find them breeding. I know you guys have Patuxent where they are. This is our only spot. And we were able to confirm them this year, I think. I think Keith found a nest, so that was exciting. And also Grasshopper Sparrows moved in. Not sparrows, I think it was only one singing male, but he moved in. And I was able one day, I think I had to return several times again, but able one day to get wonderful photo of him singing his heart out. They're luckily not very afraid of people at all, so that's great. And then one more Soldiers of Light trip. This was my last one of the breeding season, I guess. And I came back just to see what I could get of Prairie Warblers. Unfortunately, a lot of them were away doing their nesting duties, but this guy was still, I guess they are quite tireless singers, so he was very obliging to show off. And then I had a trip to Garrett County. I'll kind of skip through this because it's not really fitting with my theme of staying close to home. But these are some of the highlights. You have golden crowned kinglets, Blackburnian warblers, rose-breasted grosbeak, black-capped chickadee, which I consider a highlight, even though they're quite common over there, and black-throated green warbler, which probably was the most common bird we had on the trip. They're actually insanely abundant up there, and I don't know why I never noticed it before, because I've been to Garrett County before, but we had so many. And I also went up to Massachusetts for a little while, and there were so many up there too. It's really, really insane. So then more atlasing. This was definitely the highlight of my summer in terms of finding breeding birds. This is a blue-winged warbler in Baltimore County, actually. And this was the first time blue wings have been seen breeding. I don't know about in the decade, but definitely not since the last atlas, because they like pretty early successional habitats, and a lot of that habitat has grown and become full-fledged forest since. So they kind of move out. And I was really happy, especially about this, because we missed them out in Garrett County. Even though we got golden winged, you can't confirm blue winged out there unless you see it. And we just couldn't see one, even though we heard them. So this is the fledgling. And yeah, I hope they return next year. I don't know how much more growing the habitat will be, but this is near Pretty Boy, so up in that northern corner of Baltimore. And then some hummer fun. This was in the backyard, just hummers on the feeder. And then some rarities. So first our anhinga, poor girl with a fishing hook or whatever that was stuck. I hope she's surviving. I know we haven't seen the bird since I think September, but yeah, then we had white ibis at Loch Raven, and then this Eurasian collared dove, which I actually found. It was really, really very random. This is what I mean about chance encounters. Me and another YMOS member, Gerald, we went to Swan Harbor. It was like a rainy morning, and we had been to Susquehanna, and it wasn't very good at all because it was the middle of July, obviously. And then we just went there, and I was driving in, and I saw a weird dove on the power line, and it turns out it's a collared dove. And then it flew off, was not seen for a week, and then came back, was around for about a month, and then wasn't seen for however many months. And I'm pretty sure it's back now and still taken. So yeah. And then some shorebirding I did, Loch Raven. I'll skip because, again, strapped on time. Exploring North Point. This is a location down by Essex in Baltimore, and it's really special for this reason. It's, I think, the only reliable place for little blue herons, and they just put on an incredible show out there. They're screaming and they're fighting with each other and catching amazing like things I could never see in all this muck. And I did, unfortunately, get my boots filled up with water a couple times trying to photograph them, but it was definitely worth it. I'll definitely be returning again. It's just one of those places that I'd always known about, but just never checked out until I started driving, and it was pretty cool. And then a needle in the haystack. I say that because there are so many little blues, but in August, young tricolored herons tend to wander a little bit, and some years they'll show up at North Point, but it's hard because there are so many little blues everywhere, and then you have to pick out this tricolored, and like they'll go away and they'll come back. So I think I was there 4 times before I finally saw the bird. That was really cool. And then August, migration begins again. So these are just some various migrants I saw at the end of August. Blue-winged warbler, black and white, prairie. This was at Soldiers of Light. These 2 were at Soldiers of Light. And then an olive-sided flycatcher in my neighborhood. So that was really exciting. I think it was a great year for olive-sideds. I saw so many reports. I must have seen maybe 5 or 6, including 3 at home. So that was great. I meant to ask a question here. Oh, I forgot. But this is what I call the real MVP of fall songbird migration, because they tend to join mixed flocks, and the core species in those flocks is always chickadees. So I always say the one bird you really have to find in order to find a lot of warblers and other neotropical migrants in fall is the chickadee. Yeah, I don't think no, that's not true. I was going to say I've never found a mixed flock that didn't have at least one chickadee in it. But yeah, luckily, since warblers aren't really calling that or singing that much in the fall, if you pick out chickadee songs, you're bound to find at least a couple. So that's very lucky. And also when you pitch, those the locals are usually the ones that approach you first. So these chickadees and red-eyed vireos, I think in the next, right here, will usually approach you first. And that's when everything else gets more curious, like magnolia warbler here and chestnut-sided. So I usually know that when the chickadees come close, everything else knows it's finally come close too. These were all at home, including this olive-sided was really cool. I was sitting on my deck checking the photos I'd gotten from that day, and I looked up and it was just sitting on the spruce. And I don't know, it was very, very weird, but it flew off after about 10 seconds. So again, like I say, if I just kept looking down for 10 seconds more, I would have missed it completely. But luckily I did not. So yeah, and then more migrants again. American redstart, yellow-throated vireo, which was the first time I'd seen one in fall now that I think about it. Funny photobomb here with a parula passing, blooming warbler, Philly vireo. It was a good year for them as well. And then another parula. So, yep. So then September, again, the beginnings of eruption. So we all know it's been a fantastic year for a lot of erupting species. And that all starts in September, at least down here. It starts in August, farther north, with red-breasted nuthatches. And then I had my first purple finch was September 14th or 15th maybe. And then I don't think I went a single day when I was birding without seeing one when I was outside until December when they were all kind of dispersed more. So yeah. And then here's the peak of broad-winged hawk migration. This is a personal highlight for me. There was one day I was at home and I couldn't do much birding, but I just had this inclination to step outside. And when I did, this is what I saw.
They're going to Panama.
I'm sorry, that's so loud.
And farther south than that.
My family's asking.
Oh, I don't even know how to count. Okay. Look at the broad wings. Whoa. Hi, it's my family.
Yeah, so this has happened a couple times. Like I was talking about, migration is super good around my house, and that includes broadwings or hawks in general. And so there have been times I can't usually hawk watch the whole day, but at the end of the day, when the hawks are coming down, sometimes I'll take a peek outside. And on those really good peak days, when the cold fronts line up, the winds line up, everything lines up, sometimes I'll get a really good flight. And it makes me wonder just how many I missed. You can actually, I think this is the wildfire smog we had a little earlier. You can see it in this photo too. This is not a typical sky, but that made them really hard to see. But as they were coming down, I picked out all these birds flying over, and I think my great aunt was over, and I stepped outside for just 1 second. And that's when I saw all of them. And the reason I was upstairs, I was doing homework. I was doing homework downstairs, and I went upstairs to say hi to my great aunt and stepped outside and saw this. And I'm just like, if I kept doing homework, I would have missed it completely. And that actually inspired me to go to Cromwell. Cromwell Valley Park is a really good location for a lot of migrants. American redstart, Swainson's thrush, Lincoln sparrow, ovenbird, and hooded warbler, which is not a common fall migrant at all. So that was exciting. But it's especially known for broadwing migration. This was an unforgettable day. I think the official tally of broadwings was just under 8,000. So I'd been there a couple days before, and on the second to last day, there was a spot in Philadelphia that had, I think they said 4,000 that were settling down, and the counters there keep track of stuff like this to and then so they'll know when they got a good flight. And so around 8 o'clock, 8:30, we just start getting them to flying up, and they'll kettle, which is when here I'll show you kettling. This is kettling when they all circle together, catch the thermals.
I think we should email whoever runs the show at Veracruz and ask them their strategies, because this is
yeah. So, it was just insane. They just, I think from
I will,
nine
but I
to,
only post what I saw.
yeah. Oops, let me pause. Uh-oh, what'd I do? From 9 to 12, we just saw thousands and thousands, and I had to go home to do homework, and I came back later, and unfortunately, they either gotten too high to see or they just stopped kind of trickling through. But it was just under their record. Their record was 8,400 or something like that. And for all we know, that many more than that passed through. We just couldn't see them, but it was just an incredible day, and a lot of people showed up, and we tried to get passerby to see what we were looking at, but it was hard because eventually they just got higher and higher and higher. But sometimes for different reasons, big broadwing days kind of just pass us by. Some days there will be a hurricane that blows them out west. Other days they just all kind of trickle through without really converging on one specific day. But this day is just incredible, and it was the first time I'd really witnessed a peak day, so that was great. And then more migration at home. So here's a Cape May warbler down here and up here. Red-breasted nuthatches are continuing to come through. Black-throated green warblers are definitely one of my favorite warblers in the fall. They're just completely fearless. And then black and white warbler. And then I also chased a Connecticut warbler. This was my life for Connecticut warbler. In this, they like these overgrown goldenrod fields. This took forever. It must have. It was a nightmare, but eventually I found one. That was good. And more migration at home. Black pole warbler, red-breasted nuthatch again. Blue-headed vireo, and then black-throated green blue warbler. So as you can see, they're starting to get a little bit into the later species as we're in October now. Black-throated blues can stay for a while, so can blue-headed vireos and black pole warblers. And of course, nuthatches will winter. So then black-throated green warblers will also stay for a while. And I had a really cool experience with a troop of them that was feeding in my spruces. And I think these four are all the same bird, this very curious first-year bird. For all I know, I was the first human she saw. Probably not true, but some of them can breed in some really remote places, so you never know. And then I think this is an adult male that, or maybe not, but they do lose that black throat a little bit in the fall. So yeah, this was really cool. And then close encounters of the golden crown kinglet kind, also a super fearless bird. There are some years I don't really get any good pictures because they just never stop moving. So it's kind of like a trade-off. They're always feeding. And because they're always feeding, they never stop moving, but also because they're always feeding, they don't really notice you're there. So you can kind of walk right up to them, but they have to be low. So some years they aren't low, some years they are. And this was one of those years where this actually was a bit of an off year for them, which made me kind of sad because I had more time than ever, yet I just could not really get them where I wanted them. But I did come up with a few keepers. And then finally close encounters of the red-breasted nuthatch kind, also another pretty much similar to golden crowns where they're just so tame. And I think this bird tried to land on me at some point. I was pitching and they tried to land on me, and I wish I hadn't flinched. I flinched because I didn't expect it at either time, because she came flying down from the canopy and I was just like, no. But if I wonder what would have happened if I stayed still. Yeah, I'm gonna skip through here, but yeah, October means a lot. Some later migrants and rarities. You had your curlew sandpiper, and I also had my state bird and a yard bird golden eagle pass by. This was another encounter where I got out of bed, looked out the window to check for evening grosbeaks at the feeder, and there was literally a golden eagle flying above my head. It was insane. I've always wondered if I could get one because I'm inland. But Baltimore they don't come through Baltimore annually, or at least they aren't detected annually. So I just got very lucky with that bird. And then your winter finches, pine siskin, and purple finch. I was about to say purple sandpiper. That's not right. But yeah, I would play this video, but running out of time. But I'll play a little bit. So yeah, they're incredibly tame. You can walk right up to them. I tried to get them to feed from my hand, but they wouldn't, unfortunately. But it was still nice. And then your mountain bluebird. Of course, we all know this bird. This was really, really exciting. This is actually a mole cricket, and I watched him beat this cricket against the asphalt and like separate its head from its body and then eat the head but leave the body. And it was like, wow, that is really morbid. But I was glad he was getting enough to eat until they mowed the soybean field, and then he went off somewhere else. So I hope he's still kicking. I really do. And in North Point State Park, I had a couple of really cool encounters here that I'll talk about. So first, snow buntings. North Point is known for the snow buntings that will winter in the bay. They tend to spend most of their time on Hart Miller Island, but especially in November, they will come to Crystal Pier, which is this pier here, and feed, and they're super tame. Even when there are a lot of people, like non-birders just walking by, they'll feed on the grass and in the rocks. Although this year they were a bit more uncomfortable, which was sad. And I think now they're on Hart Miller most of the time, but luckily I was able to see them in November. And then Purple Sandpiper. This was definitely the top 3 experience for me. This was my lifer, Purple Sandpiper, at least the first one I remembered. And I was waiting on the pier for the snow buntings, and this guy walks up and starts photographing something. And I'd heard a bunting a little bit earlier, although I didn't know if it was a flyover or not. And so I kind of snuck up behind him. I didn't want to scare it because I hated when people do that to me. And I was like, what are you looking at? And he's like, Purple Sandpiper, I think. And I was like, what? And I looked over, and sure enough, it's a Purple Sandpiper. And this bird and another one stayed in the area for about a week. But this was the first day. And I was just, I was so just enamored by the bird that I took so many videos and so many photos. And they're just so unafraid of people. A lot of sandpipers are. I think it's because they breed in such remote places that they barely see people until they go south, and they just don't care. But yeah. Then we had our little Rufus hummingbird invasion. That was really cool. I think it was a fantastic year for Rufus hummingbirds, including this one, which was in Pikesville. So I got to watch this bird get banded, and you can technically ID him as a Rufus because of the Rufus that's starting to come in on his back here. And they say once it's more than 50% Rufus, and they can safely be identified. But of course, someone came in, Bruce Peter John came in and measured the tail feathers and everything, and then banded him, and he went on his way. So then I had a really cool chickadee headache in Washington. This is when I was out looking at the evening grosbeaks. But there was a slight black-cap chickadee invasion. But at the same time, out here, this is where black-capped and Carolina chickadees are hard to distinguish from each other because black-capped will breed in Allegheny and Garrett, and Carolinas will breed everywhere else, but are pushing west. So this bird down here is the only one that could safely be identified as black-capped, and I left these other 3 as slashes. But I also looked at black-capped seen a bit farther north because they're supposed to be more distinguishable as they get farther north in terms of plumage. And a lot of them were a lot more ambiguous than even this bird, which I left as a slash. So it's kind of hard to know that line, but this bird definitely has a lot of white in the primaries and a lot of white in the cheek. So yeah, black-capped chickadee. And then Western Flycatcher, we had a mini, I don't know if I would call it an invasion, but it was definitely a good year for Westerns. And this was the one in Frederick. One afternoon I came back. This was the afternoon after I went to Washington, and kind of had him all to myself. And it was just an incredible bird. Unfortunately, I think it perished in the snow we had because it was not seen after that. But maybe, just maybe, it sensed that storm because I know birds can do that, animals can do that, and hightailed it somewhere that did not have snow. So that's my hope, and maybe I'll just cling to that. Then fun with snowbirds, white-throated sparrows, dark-eyed juncos, trip to the eastern shore. I had the mandatory visit to Oakley Street. You always got to get down there. The same birds, but it's always incredible just seeing them up close like that. And I actually heard canvasbacks for the first time. They make this really cool sort of cooing noise. So that was nice. And I always love to hear the widgeons. And then short-eared owl trip. This was Deal Island, Riley Roberts Road. And I was down there with a couple friends, and we were a little bit quiet. And eventually this short-eared came a bit closer than they usually do. And this was the best look I've ever had of them. I think I was going to include a video, but I might have forgotten. But it was insane. And they were still sort of far off. You can tell by the quality, but also for short-eareds, this was great. One day I'll have one in front of my face. One day I will do it. But yeah, then getting close to a couple of winter birds, American tree sparrow, cackling goose, and then you can see the cackling geese noticeably smaller than the Canadas here. So this is the first time I picked out cackling in a flock by myself. So I was very excited I could do that. And then of course I have to include the mandatory painted bunting. This was the second or third day. And you can see some of these are just innocent passerby, and they did not know what we were looking at. And I felt sorry for them because he was not making it easy. He was quite a skulker, and just yeah. If anybody's gone to see that bird, you know what I'm talking about. But I think people were able to pick it out, so that's why he's gotten so much attention. North Point, a few surprises, including a black scoter, which is also was an annual in Baltimore, and then a wintering yellowthroat. And then, of course, the grebes I also have to include. My friend Lou Taylor was there and took a photo of me without me seeing. But yeah, I wonder what they're going to do, because I chanced across a report from like the San Francisco area, and grebes are starting to do their courtships there. And so I wonder what I think this bird was just stretching here, not doing the rushing display, but I wonder what they're going to do, because they've been around for a while. They seem pretty content to stay at Log Raven. So, and a really cool encounter with a coop at Cox Point Park. First time I've ever really been close to an adult Cooper's hawk, and caught a mourning dove, unfortunately for the bird, but fortunately for this coop. Some city birding, Patterson Park, and first visit to St. Mary's County with brown-headed nuthatches. This was my first time really seeing them up close. And of course, the Barrow's golden eye was really cool. My first red pole happened a little under a week ago. This was at North Point. I was at Marshy Point Nature Center looking for these swans, these mute swans, and they winter there, but they like to wander into these side coves, and you can't see them at all. So I think I went there maybe 5 times looking, and I couldn't find it, but this was like my 5th time, and then someone sends out red pole. So of course I headed over there and eventually refound it in some sweet gums. So, and then one last hurrah. This was my only trip that I'm going to do out of state for. I went to Barnegat Lighthouse State Park yesterday, and it was just incredible. Just point blank views of king eider, long-tailed duck, common eider, of course, purple sandpiper, and harlequin duck. And this was, oh my God, it's just an incredible show. Yeah, they're kind of interesting because they will, they're tame, definitely, but at the same time, when they come to preen, because they seem very vain, and I guess they have every right to be. Look at them, but you kind of have to sneak up on them a little bit through the rocks to try and get close to them. But eventually, I was able to do so, and I got some wonderful looks of what is now definitely my new favorite duck species, and long-tailed and king eider definitely come in 2nd and 3rd. So yeah, I was really happy to get to do one last thing before I leave for school. Sorry, I went a little bit overtime. I think that's it. Thank you. Sorry I went overtime and talked a little fast at the end, but I hope everyone enjoyed this.
I don't think anybody is complaining.
No, that's great.
Yay. All right, let me exit here.
They were great. Thank you.
No problem. Oh, sorry, I didn't see everyone's comments. Thank you for those.
Yeah, so there were a couple of questions, or at least one here. So what device do you use to record the bird songs?
Oh, that was just my phone. I think I was going to add some actual recordings in there, but I have this sentimental habit of taking videos wherever I go, especially if it's a really good bird day, just so I can remember it by. And then when I was asked to do a presentation, I was like, well, now I can enhance it with all these photos and videos, and everything. So yeah, that was just a lucky streak. But yeah, it's just my phone usually.
Okay. Anybody have a question you want to ask Kojo?
Where's that Barnegat Lighthouse place? What you said it was out of state?
Yeah, it's in New Jersey. It's north of Cape May in Ocean, New Jersey, a little bit east of Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's I definitely recommend you go. It's a little bit treacherous on the rocks, but it's a nice view, and you don't have to go far to see the birds at all. So yeah, it's great. Oh, my lenses. I use a Canon 100 to 400 Mark II now with a Canon 7D Mark II. I had a Sigma 150 to 500 until the end of May when it broke. It would not extend, which was very unfortunate. And my parents were gracious enough to get me a new lens. Oh, but yeah, it's definitely a great upgrade. No problem.
So you started the photography in middle school, and obviously now you're pretty you're pretty awesome with it.
Thank you.
What was the process of how you learned to, get the focus right and get all the, the environment around where you're taking the shot? Because, a lot of those photos are just, especially, when you can focus on the eye of a bird at a little bit of a distance, that's what makes it really good.
Well, I started taking photos in 7th grade, and my reasoning is I was on Flickr. I browse Flickr a lot of the time. Flickr is just pretty much social media for photographers, if you don't know. And I would screenshot people's really good bird pictures and make them my phone home screen. But because it's a screenshot, the quality is really bad. And I was just really cross with that. And I was like, I want to take my own photos. So I started taking photos through my phone and through binoculars, so digibinning. And eventually I realized my mom had an old DSLR, and then I used that, and eventually my parents got me my own. How I compose my images is, I think a lot of it is, how do I put this, is seeing other people's work, I guess. So I'm on Instagram a lot and Facebook and everything, and that's my dad. And I think seeing other people's photos and seeing what they can do kind of inspires me a lot. And also I have this thing where I go out, and when I'm focusing on a specific bird, is I look at a branch and I just I'll focus on the branch with my camera, and I'll like think like that would be a really nice photo. And it might not happen that day, it might not happen that year, as you'll see, like for the cerulean that took me 4 or 5 years to get. But eventually, or not so eventually, I don't know, there's still several dreams I have, or I hope it'll happen. And that just makes it all the more special when it does happen. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's great.
Oh, and my yard list is at, I think, 149 species. Just one more until 150. Yeah.
So how big do you consider your yard? I guess
My
if you're
yard?
in your yard, anything you see from your yard counts?
I consider it my neighborhood usually.
Okay.
I used to go pretty far. In one of my pictures I had a railroad track, and I used to consider that like my yard, but I don't really go there very often anymore, and pretty much everything I've seen there I've also seen in close proximity to my yard. But that's just good for like good migration days. I'm trying to get a lot of species on a list. But a lot of the best birds have been from my yard itself. Like for example, the golden eagle. I had evening grosbeaks at my feeder this past season. And then of course like those broad-winged hawks. I don't know. I wonder what I missed that isn't when I'm not hawk watching from my yard. But maybe I just got lucky. I really have no idea. I would love to figure out one day why the area is so good for migration, but I don't know if I'll ever have a concrete answer. Dad, you can just walk. You don't have to do that. Okay, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I hope a trip to Veracruz is in the cards for you one day.
Hopefully one day, yeah. If someone didn't catch the joke I said in the video there, I said like we have to call the people at Veracruz and figure out how they count these birds, because down in Veracruz, Mexico, you got hundreds of thousands of migrating hawks in a season. It's insane. I had a question. Do I have birding buddies at Princeton? Yeah, I have my friend Claire, who's also from YMOS. My friend Patrick, who is also from YMOS, will be joining next year. And then there's a birding society at Princeton that Claire founded that is growing. And actually, in my in our group meet chat for my class, you know, we've all been at home, so we all usually by now they're kind of out of commission because people are on campus and form their own friend groups and things. But since we didn't have anybody else, we're all pretty active in that. And I usually send a bird or two in there every couple, because I'm already known as the bird guy, you know. But Yeah. So a lot of people are getting into it, and I hope to grow the birding society a bit more. Night migration. Yeah, I do. I don't know very many calls, especially the warblers. They all sound kind of similar, and it's funny. Every single time I learn the warbler calls, well, first songs in the spring, and then calls and flight calls in the fall when they aren't singing. The season, like by the time I've learned them all, the season's over, and then there's no reason to know them, and you forget, and then and then it comes around and you know nothing. But on really good migration days, like we had this one really good cold front, I think the middle of September, and I think I had either 150 to 300. I forgot what number I put on eBird. Swainson's Thrush is passing over in like a 15-minute period, and that was really exciting. Couple Great Cheek, couple Veery as well. But when I get the chance, when it's a good night for it, I'll listen. Yeah.
Anybody else before we wrap it up? All right. Kojo, thank you so much. This was amazing.
I hope everyone enjoyed.
Oh yeah. This is one of those I wish that it was an in-person meeting, because I think you would have heard a lot of jaws hitting the floor.
Yes, Kojo, when I grow up, I want to be you.
Thank you.
So thanks again, and best of luck back at Princeton. And yeah, I have a feeling you'll grow that bird club some more.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Stay
Thank you.
safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.